to say they do not have any relevant insight into who Jesus was, but only to show that they soon became out of fashion. So I'll just break off there. Just two examples. Ernest Renan, 1823-19 to 1892. Jesus was a romantic visionary. When Renan was writing, there were many poets, novelists, writers who had a kind of romantic hero view of the past. And so it's no accident that Ernest Renan writes a life of Jesus with that kind of methodology. And so you can go through every one of the historical Jesus scholars from Ramirez right down to Schweitzer, and every one is writing a Jesus with a bias from their own cultural and historical perspective. You can find more information on that in N.T. Wright's book, Who Was Jesus, 1989. However, the new atheists have not broke free from creating a Jesus in their own image. So let's look at some modern atheist scholars. The British scientist Richard Dawkins considered Jesus is a product of the later church, a mythological figure who might have existed. Now, he gives no analysis of any historical data in depth, page 199 to page 22 of his book, The God Delusion, to back up his claims. When he comments on the history of the church, he uses, in the main, secondary sources, i.e. a few scholars, and does not know the few primary sources he quotes, i.e. the Gospel of Thomas. Then we have the British journalist and writer Christopher Hitchens, 13th of April 1949 to 15th of December 2011, in his book God Is Not Great. Page 40, page 51, page 60, page 64, page 68, page 89, page 109 to 23, page 127 to 128, page 130, page 152, page 158 to 159. In his polemical attack on Christianity, Hitchens' conclusion is that Jesus was an avatar of Seth, a Gnostic invention who makes more sense than early churches' fabrication of a historical Jesus. He spends most of his time attacking the birth narratives of Jesus, relying on the scholar Bart Ehrman for his evidence. Hitchens does not engage with any mainstream scholars who would disagree with Ehrman. Hitchens puts the four Gospels along the same date as the Gnostic Gospels, failing to realize the Gnostic Gospels quote the four Gospels, thus making the four Gospels much earlier in their production. The four Gospels are 1st century and the Gnostic, in the main, are 2nd century. You can find this by the lecture Who Wrote the Gospel by Timothy McGrew, who gives a lecture on Apologetics 315 YouTube channel. Hitchens shows no awareness of the culture of 1st century Judaism, how that relates to Jesus' studies. He does not comment about Jesus. When he does comment about Jesus, most of the time he sees him in the context of power, where religion is one of control. This highlights Hitchens' Marxist influence in understanding history. The American writer Sam Harris, in his book End of Faith, page 35, page 96 to 97, page 82, page 83, page 156 to 157, page 158, page 241, page 254, he sees Jesus as a Jew, but politicizes him at every turn. He understands Jesus' divinity and death as political tools used by the church against the Jews, a theological anti-Semitism. Jesus' birth is but a Catholic invention which had hang-ups about sex, and we have had this for 2,000 years in the West. It is no accident. Sorry for my itchy nose. It is no accident. It is no accident that Sam is a secularized Jewish atheist and will see Jesus this way as he does. Again, Sam makes no effort to really understand the historical Jesus, both in his historical context. He engages with no scholars who would disagree with him on his comments of Jesus. It is one-sided, highly politicized broadside against religions. Then we come to Michael Onfray, the French philosopher. In his book Atheist Manifesto, page 115 to 127, said Jesus' existence has not been historically established. He makes great sweeping claims but fails to cite scholars and evidence to back up what he says. He has even been noted to get his facts wrong. He said there are an incalculable number of contradictions and improbabilities in the body of the text of the Synoptics. He then notes crucifixion victims were not put to rest in tombs. Jews were not crucified at this time. Solid evidence contradicts the French philosopher. Josephus said the Jews are so careful about funeral rites, and even malefactors who have been sentenced to crucifixion are taken down and buried before sunset. Josephus' Jewish War, chapter 4, verse 317. So we have looked at 4 new atheists, and we find these facts about their understanding of Jesus. All 4 do not do anywhere near, so we looked at 4 new atheists. We find these facts about their understanding of Jesus. All 4 do not do anywhere near extensive study of the historical source material about the life of Jesus. All 4 ignore engaging with scholars who might disagree with them. All 4 have a polemical agenda against religion. They tend to read the life of Jesus in the light of their political struggle against religion in the present. They tend to attack the virgin birth and see that as the main evidence against Jesus being a real historical figure. The rest of Jesus' life is superficially treated only to make a political point against religion in the present. This can hardly be seen as fair, objective historical treatment of the life of Christ. In conclusion, the Bayes theorem. In a debate, James White asked Dominic Crossan about bias in historical method. Dominic Crossan replied, "We have presuppositions, but we also have data." This is in the resurrection debate, Crossan and Borg versus White and Renihan. This debate took place on board a ship in 2005 in the Gulf of Alaska, YouTube channel Dr. Oakley, 1689. Crossan, he implied that we can get to the historical data even with bias. I agree with Crossan, but he failed to highlight, as Dr. White wanted to do, that our presuppositions in historical inquiry are a problem. Most of us, even scholars, are not aware how we shape the historical material to suit our agenda. What bias do you bring to the table? How are they shaping you as you look at the material?